Haters hate, I don't give a fuck. That's why I tell them, suck my sack. Suck my sack. Suck my sack. Haters gonna hate, or I don't give a fuck. Suck my sack. Suck my sack.
What's going on, guys? Tro Quis radio show presented to you by Travato Electric. We're doing the 2017 kickoff special. We're in week 2 of the Gridiron Fantasy Football League, and I got my boy T Quis with me. What's going on?
What's going on, Joe? Good to be back.
Good to be back, and it's been an interesting first 2 weeks of the league so far. Got some teams that look good, got some teams that look bad, got some teams that I don't know what to make of them because they're just so up, so down, but we'll get right into it. We're going to recap week 2. Or do you want to recap week 1, a little shorthand week 1 recap?
I mean, yeah, we can do that.
Alright. So week 1 was fairly straightforward. I mean, we had a lot of blowouts. The smallest margin of victory was 10. So, I mean, we'll start out. I played Chris Deal first game, and I murdered him. You got anything to say about that game?
I mean, it was fully expected going into the week. I mean, Joe Tro getting the lucky matchup of the untalented rookie Chris Deal. So I just knew that the veteran Joe Travato was just going to get it done today.
Yeah, I mean, to quickly go through it, he really didn't get anybody to go off. His high score was Ben Roethlisberger 16. My high score was Tyreek with 26. So I mean, I beat him handedly. What was the final score there? 104 to 50. So we'll go right into the next game. We'll go to Ryan Muskin against Austin Rich. This game finished out at 114 to 64. Ryan Muskin. So I mean, again, another blowout.
Yeah, it was good to see Stephon Diggs do well for Ryan Muskin. I mean, he was a very good receiver last year, and I'm glad for Ryan Muskin that drafting him at such a high round this year that he got the job done week 1.
Once again, 114 to 64. Ryan Muskin won that one. In the next game, we got Braden against Matt Brem. Two very highly touted rosters. This was definitely the highest scoring game. Braden snuck out a 10-point win, 128 to 118.
Yeah, if you look at my article that I posted at the beginning of the year, I just stated that Matt Brem I thought was one of the best teams, if not the best team. I think I had him rated at a 12-1 record. Of course, he lost week 1, but I mean, his team did put up the third highest points behind an impressive showcase from Golden Tate and Antonio Brown, as well as Todd Gurley.
I mean, Matt Brem's team really didn't even have, he had 3 20-point scores, and then the rest of the guys really didn't do anything. So he kind of lucked out with Todd Gurley, Antonio, and Golden Tate getting him 20 points. And then Braden just had an all-around good team pretty much, except for his kicker with 2, but I don't think he's using them anymore. But yeah, Braden with a nice win, up 10 points on Matt Brem. Next game, Nathan against Jake Mitchell. Once again, going into the draft, Nathan hasn't been the strongest fantasy player in the past couple years, and Jake Mitchell's been a solid fantasy player. Usually sneaks into the playoffs, but this was a really low-scoring game, 85 to 65. Jake Mitchell.
Yeah, not really much to say about this game last week. I mean, Nathan Hensel scores a putrid 65 points, but also, you got to look at the fact that Tom Brady didn't have his best performance against one of the best defenses in the league. So, I mean, you can just tell that when Tom Brady bounced back this week, that Nathan Hensel's team will be fine this year.
Yeah, there were no 20-point scores in either of these teams. Nathan had a 1 point, a 2 point, and 2 3-points. So, that's not going to add up for too many. And then Jake, he had a couple bright spots, a couple double-digit scores, but nothing really too crazy. You got anything else to say on that?
So what I was saying was, I was just really disappointed with the fact that Freeman just is such a high draft pick. He's not doing much for Jake Mitchell last week. He got 2 touchdowns this week, but how much can you really put on that? I mean, I just don't really see him producing that much in further weeks.
Understandable. Very true. I agree with everything you said. We'll go to the next game. Taylor against Cole Gibson. This was a matchup of a couple intriguing squads. Both teams over 100 points, 127 to 102 Cole. So obviously our co-host here had to start with an 0-1 season, but his team looks a little different than what it currently stands at.
Yeah, man. I mean, I lost Allen Robinson, who I thought was gonna have another good year. I
Yep,
mean, not
that's
he didn't
unfortunate.
have one last year, but I mean, I just thought that he could bounce back. I mean, just getting the targets and the fact that he had the unlucky Blake Bortles statistical 20-yard downfield stat, and I just was really disappointed with the fact that he went to the bench or he's on IR now. So, I mean, good thing I traded for Odell Beckham Jr., but my squad does look a lot different, and I'm just the only other thing I would say is I'm disappointed that Le'Veon Bell just hasn't been performing the
Yeah,
past 2 weeks.
I'll add to that. Le'Veon Bell, obviously taken with the, I believe, #1 overall pick in this year's draft. And then you obviously have Zeke too, which you were hoping he would kind of beat the case and keep playing what he has. But yeah, Le'Veon has not done really too much this year. I don't know how long Marcus Mariota can be your quarterback with his performances. And then obviously your flex, you've got somebody you traded, so you got a new flex, which is good. But Cole Gibson with a nice week 1, put up a lot of points. He had a 29-pointer, he had a 20-pointer, and a bunch of teens. So I mean, he did really good. We'll go to the next
Yeah,
game. If you got something else.
I was just gonna say he's got a very solid team, and just the Jaguars defense just played on their heads, and you just gotta tip your hat off to how they played and how his RB1 and 2 did.
So the final game we'll go over through week 1 was a game where I thought it would be way more high scoring. Roderick and JP. Rosters are pretty good, except Buzz now has to deal with the David Johnson situation, which is not pretty. I think he took him with the 4th or 5th overall pick. Maybe 3rd, I don't remember exactly. But yeah, he scored 79. JP beat him with 94. What do you got to say about that?
Honestly, yeah, just a tough break for Roderick Callahan. I mean, he's a very great, highly touted ball club and head coach, and it's just tough, man, when you just see such a stud in David Johnson going down, and then his RB2 and Eddie Lacy not even played more than 3 snaps. So there's definitely going to be some refiguration in that lineup, and JP Salopek, you got to give him credit, man. I mean, he's just starting off the year 2-0, just played really well last week, and yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about that further, but just to recap week 1, the winners were me, JP, Jake Mitchell, Cole Gibson, Braden, and Ryan, and the losers were Austin, Matt, Nathan, Taylor, Roderick, and Chris. So there's your recap of week 1, and we'll go right into week 2. That's where all the information is. So which game you want to start with there, Taylor?
I'd like to start with the Austin, Rich, and Chris Steele matchup.
Sure, let's go right into this. This was a game where it looked like Austin Rich was not even playing because he didn't even put in a running back 2 or a wide receiver 2, but still snuck out the win 197.
Yeah, we can just point to my article where I said Chris Steele. I just feel like he's not. This is no like knock on him as a ball coach or anything, but I mean when you draft Ben Roethlisberger with your first round pick, it's just kind of hard to capitalize on that. But good for him getting Kareem Hunt straight RB1. Didn't even really. I don't even know if he drafted him or not. It was just a good
I
pickup on
believe he
his
did.
part.
I think he did late.
Yeah, I mean that's just. I mean his ball club's definitely gotten better because of that. So I mean I don't know if I still see him going 0-13, but I mean when somebody doesn't even put in a running back and a wide receiver and you still lose, you just gotta definitely reevaluate your ball club.
I mean, if you look at Deal, he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players above 16 points, and then he had 1, 2, 3, 4 players that went under 2 points. He had 3 1-pointers and a -2. So I mean, he pretty much had 4 players doing absolutely nothing for his team. So he's really got to deal with that. Bilal Powell, Mike Wallace are players that you definitely need to probably get rid of. I don't see any upside for them, especially with guys like Blunt, Cole Beasley, Brandon Coleman on your bench. I just think you got to make a change. And Carlos Hyde.
Yeah, it's just really disappointing about Mike Wallace. I mean, I saw him as a very reliable receiver this year in that new Ravens offense, and it's just disappointing to see how bad he's played for football or for the NFL this year. And I just this team that Chris Steele has, man. I mean, there's definitely holes in there that you need to fix.
Do you think he
and
needs to trade Kareem? Get some
you
players.
definitely need to do something. I don't know if trading Kareem is the answer because right now that's the core of your team,
Yeah.
but there's definitely trades that need to be made, especially for someone like Allen Hurns, who you see Allen Robinson's done for the year, so you know Hurns is going to get more targets, more looks. Like, people could be interested in that kind of things that need like a wide receiver.
Yep.
Um, I mean, you could definitely see. I mean, he needs a flex, so you probably enter Carlos Hyde in there,
Yeah, I mean
maybe.
we'll go further into roster changes and addition subtractions in our week 3
Yeah.
to look forward to. So just kind of a sneak forward, but we'll go right into Austin Rich's team once again. Only played 7 players out of the possible 9, but I mean his players did really well, honestly, except for his kicker only got 5, but everybody else did pretty solid. I mean, we'll look. We can't really. It's hard to judge his team because he doesn't even. I don't even know if he's playing. But his bench went off. I mean, you got to agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, all he needs to do is just needs to just log into the fantasy app and
Yeah.
just make adjustments, man. I
I'm sure he
mean,
will. I mean, I can't see him keeping those players. And I mean, I don't even know who he. I think he plays me next week, but I mean, we'll see what happens. But his bench
I mean,
definitely went off.
yeah, pending that Doug Martin suspension, I mean, Jaquiz Rodgers might still end up being the starting running back for Tampa Bay even when Doug comes back. I mean, he's not doing bad, and last year you can point to the fantasy numbers. He was a top 10 running back in in games where Doug Martin was out of the game. So, I mean, you can enter Rodgers as your RB2. Frank Gore is always Mr. Old Reliable. Devontae Adams in that nice Green Bay offense. Rob Gronkowski, Patriots offense. One of the best tight ends in the league. Like, you can definitely see that this team has potential, but it's just whether or not he can put in the dedication.
Yep. Once again, that game was 100-97, a 3-point squeaker win by Austin Rich. He moves to 1-1. Team deal moves to 0-2, and it doesn't look good for him. He's got to make some moves, but we'll go right into the next game. Which game do you want to go to there, Taylor?
We'll do League Dictator versus Big Johnson.
All right, we got Braden versus Roderick. This was a game. Braden came in 1-0. Johnson came in 0-1, and Braden looked like he had a strong team. Looked like he was going to run away with this win, but Roderick, man, snuck out a 105-103 victory, and it has a lot to do with Jordy Nelson. You want to give us some details on that?
Yeah, man. I mean, that game was just bizarre. Jordy Nelson, first series, just goes out, and I mean, it didn't look like it was anything serious, but he just didn't come back for the rest of the game, and Braden unfortunately took a hit from that after Matt Bryant capped off a 14-point miraculous performance for Big Johnson. I mean, credit Big Johnson doing that without David Johnson's just big.
Yeah, I mean, when Braden puts up 103 points and has a player get 1 and a player get 0, that's pretty good. He's got to obviously look at that, assess it, and make a change. I don't know how extensive the Jordy Nelson injury is, if it's severe, if it's minor, I don't know. But he never came back in that game, and it was on the first drive, so I'm guessing it's not good. But yeah, Big Johnson, his team all around scored double digit except for Ty and Cooks, who I don't really think will have that great of years this year. Cooks will probably do decent, but T.Y. Hilton, obviously with those quarterback issues, probably isn't going to be that good of a running back one that he has. And his bench is just loaded with injuries, and it doesn't look good for Big Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, going back to that Jordy Nelson thing, it looks like it's not a severe injury, just a minor quad strain.
Okay.
He'll probably be back next week, but it's just unfortunate because this is a week-by-week league, and you definitely need to win as many games as you can because not every game is going to be given to you, and the playoffs are hard-fought. So, I mean, it's good to see that there's definitely depth on League Dictators Ball Club. I mean, he's got C.J. Anderson, who dropped 29, which is just impressive. He's probably going to end up needing to drop Danny Head-Wooddick, just because I just don't really like. I don't think he's coming back for the remainder of the year, and
Yeah, I agree.
even if he does, with the emergence of Buck Allen, and it's just as the pass catching back, you just can't really do anything about that.
Yeah, Woodhead, that's also unfortunate. I mean, injured first game of the season. It's not looking good. Already put on injured reserve. But yes, the C.J. Anderson deal, I don't know how much of a fluke that was. Week one, he got 9 points, and then this week he went over 100 yards with a touchdown, got 29 fantasy points, excuse me. Plays at Buffalo next week, and we saw how they shut down that Panthers offense, so I don't know. I would probably, man, I don't know what I would do if I was him, but he's definitely got to do something if Jordy Nelson doesn't play.
And going back to Big Johnson's team, I mean, you look at this bench, and it's atrocious in my eyes. I mean, you have nobody that really other than J.J. Nelson because of the
Yeah.
David Johnson injury. But honestly, not David Johnson, sorry, J.J. Nelson should be your starter. I mean, T.Y. Hilton, until Andrew Luck gets back, will just be irrelevant for you. And Brandon Cooks is just not shaping up to the wide receiver one he was panned out to be at the drafts. But
Especially with Amendola and Edelman and all those guys injured, you'd think he'd get more touches, but it doesn't really seem to be the case.
it's never really the case with Tom Brady. We should have seen this from the start. I mean, Tom Brady always passes the ball around, and now there's info that they're going to go to 3 tight end sets, so even more or even less looks for Brandon Cooks out of that wide receiving core.
What's your opinion on Roderick using both New England running backs, Gillislee and White, and the New England wide receiver?
Definitely a ballsy play, but I mean, you can't really do anything about it because, I mean, this is a PPR league, and I mean, James White's definitely a valuable commodity in there, and you just look at his bench, like I said, and there's just nobody to really replace at running back. I mean, you lost your go-to man with your second or third overall pick in the draft, and
Yeah.
I mean, you can't really recover from that. And if he does, hats off to him, but I mean, it's just tough.
Definitely going to be an uphill battle for Big Johnson. With this, he does beat Braden, however, 105 to 103, moves to 1-1. Braden goes to 1-1 as well, both in the AFC. So that AFC is really clogging up. It's still pretty early, obviously. We're in week 3, but that's a good win for Big Johnson. It's keeps Braden from keeping his undefeated streak. So we'll go right into the next game. We're going to do Matt Boss status versus Antonio Brown Eyes. This was a bit of a blowout. Matt Brem wins by 24 points, 119-95. I mean, Matt's team is looking really strong.
Yeah, I mean, I just hate to toot my own horn here, but I picked Matt Brem to have the best regular season record in the league, and it's just showing up in his team. I mean, as long as you keep getting production out of Gurley in that Rams offense, it's hard to not see Matt Brem's team at top of the playoff tree when it's the regular season's all said and done. And I mean, it was a good fight at the beginning with Brown Eyes and Matt Boss status, but the talent level on Matt Brem's team is just out of this world compared to Antonio Brown Eyes.
Matt's talent is way superior than Jake Mitchell's talent. I mean, from every position almost. It's looking like Matt's running back situation is going to be really good with Miller and Gurley. And then his wide receivers, he also has Antonio Brown. Alshon Jeffrey scored him 22. His tight end looks good. His flex, Golden Tate, had a bit of an off week that week. And then, I mean, his bench isn't really too good. He's got a lot of backups on it. But definitely useful players for his bye weeks.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I wouldn't say he's got great depth at his bench spots, but I mean, with that starting core, I mean, you're only going to have 1 or 2 bye week problems, and that's not really going to matter when it comes to the playoffs, because I see him talent-wise as one of the top teams, and as pending injury, like a serious injury, I don't see Matt Boss having to scramble for players when he has bye weeks.
Yeah, and then going over to Jake's side of the ball, Jameis Winston as a starting quarterback. What's your opinion on that?
When I did my preseason rankings, I had Jameis Winston as the number 7th ranked quarterback, and I know that seems high to some people, but I just felt like with the new system they're running, and just like the fact that
new weapons. I mean, he got Deshaun Jackson. So.
Yeah, just all the new weapons surrounding him, and just the emergence of Jaquiz Rodgers out of that backfield. I just felt like that they had a pretty good chance, and Jameis Winston was just going to be the leader of that offense.
Yeah,
He's just not.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just
go ahead.
continue off that point. Jameis Winston obviously getting Deshaun Jackson, having Mike Evans to throw to as well, having great tight ends with Cameron Brate, O.J. Howard, and then having that backfield. Now I'm going to wait to judge him until Doug Martin gets back, just so they have a full running back kind of intimidation factor for the defenses they play. But I'm pretty confident he'll be good. He hasn't thrown a pick yet, I don't believe, which obviously that was a struggle. Yeah, he went 204 yards with 1 touchdown, so I mean, it's nothing great. And it was against Chicago, too, which isn't, he goes at Minnesota next week, so I don't know what to will probably not do good again. But I would say you're going to agree with me or disagree with me on this, but I'm going to say the biggest disappointment so far is Isaiah Crowell. I mean, people had this guy at about a top 5 running back in the league for fantasy, and this dude has only put up 13 combined points through week 1 and 2.
Yeah, I felt like that I saw through that. I just didn't really see the Browns being in a position, game flow wise, to set Crowell up for a success. And I, you have to be winning in order for a running back to. I wouldn't even say winning. You have to be successful at the quarterback position in
Yeah,
order for
I
the
agree.
running back to be successful. And when you have, I mean, Kaiser's not bad. He gives the Browns hope. He gives them a chance to, win 5 or 6 games this year. And I don't see Crowell doing that well. I like Duke Johnson a little bit more.
I mean, I would say I think the defenses just aren't respecting the Browns' passing game, and they're just shutting the run down. Because I mean, Crowell hasn't been good at running. When Duke Johnson's got the ball running, he hasn't been doing good. Obviously, when he catches it, he's doing great, and they're getting a lot of passing yards. But I just don't think defenses respect the Browns' passing game yet. And until that changes, I don't think Isaiah Crowell's fantasy numbers are going to improve. I mean, I don't think. I mean, if you look at Jake's bench, he's got C.J. Procise, backup. All right, Joe Mixon, possible upside, but those are only running backs he's got. So he might have to look somewhere else for a replacement.
Yeah, and just changing topics a little bit. AJ Green, I mean, I know he drafted him as a wide receiver 1. He's been kind of disappointing. I wouldn't say a bust necessarily, but
Well,
you
he's
just
got Andy
gotta,
Dalton. I mean, Andy Dalton hasn't been the best either.
yeah, but you just gotta realize that they haven't scored a touchdown in the past two
Yes.
weeks, playing 2 excellent defenses, and you've got to have some optimism too, because AJ Green's got 12 points week 1 against the Ravens and 11 points week 2 against Houston. I mean, those aren't great numbers, but against those defenses and the fact that the Bengals offense just wasn't that great, you just got to imagine that week 3 against Green Bay, you got to have a good matchup there.
I mean, if you look at
Projected
the
17.
Bengals schedule, they don't play that many bad defenses really. I mean, they got Green Bay, they got Cleveland, obviously, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, they got Indianapolis, who's not good, but Jacksonville, Tennessee, Denver. Those are all pretty good defenses.
Yeah, the only thing I would necessarily worry about is come playoff time is that at Minnesota week 15 game.
Yeah,
But I mean, A, you have to make the playoffs, and B, I don't really see Dalton contributing to Green that much. I mean, Green I still see as a top 15 receiver. I had him ranked preseason at number 8, I believe. And I just don't I didn't know that Dalton was going to be this bad to an extent. Maybe it's just rust, I don't know, but I guess we'll find out as time tells.
as once again, Matt Brim wins that game pretty solidly, 119-95 over Jake Mitchell. Matt moves to 1-1, as well as Jake moves to 1-1. Those teams are both in the NFC. So we'll go right into the next game. We'll go me versus JP. Both coming in 1-0. And what was your prediction or what was your thoughts before this even panned out?
I just saw both these teams. I mean, I was, mock JP a little bit for his past fantasy performances, and I know he's never made the playoffs, but
Rightly so.
I really think that his team has a shot this year. I mean, you just look, you got decent players all around the board. As long as Leonard Fournette keeps performing, the only thing I would be nervous about is Jordan Howard. I honestly see, with the injury and the fact that Cohen is just playing at such a higher level than what Howard was this year, I just see Cohen end up taking that spot, and I don't know what JP's going to do. Maybe slide in Amir Abdullah. I don't know, but I just before the game, I just had the mindset that I just felt like Daps on the Atlas was definitely the more established team. I felt like they were going to win. If I remember correctly, I think they were favored to win, and I love
I think
Ty
I was.
Montgomery in that. You weren't?
I think I was. I think you're right.
Oh, you were? Yeah. So going back to my point, I see that I think that JP's team has talent, but it's interesting to see his first test of his managerial skills this year in that Jordan Howard situation. And then going back to Daps on the Atlas, I really like Ty Montgomery in that Green Bay backfield. Cohen, of course, emerging. Hopkins doing well, even though he's in that Houston offense that only scored 13 points. Like, you got Tyreek Hill, who's got massive upside. Jordan Reed, as long as he stays healthy, is good. And then, of course, Julio Jones. I mean, it's just all around a solid ball club. And I was really disappointed to just watch that Monday night game and see Matt Prater's come up one field goal short
Yeah, that
of
was
a great comeback
that
for
was
Daps on the Atlas.
very depressing, very unfortunate for me. I mean, I was hoping he would get 11 points, what I needed from Prater to beat JP, but obviously I was very lucky that Montgomery got 28 fantasy points, which really boosted me into that contention. And I think that the performance of Tyreek Hill only getting 8 with the Eagles defense shutting him down really hurt me. I really think that might have been the cause because he just didn't really do anything that whole game. And I mean, let's face it, JP had 3 20-point scores. I only had 2. He had people in the high teens. I didn't really have anybody in the high teens. And in the course, his defense played the Browns, got him a bunch of points off those picks that Deshaun threw, which did not help me at all. And I mean, it was really high scoring. I probably could have beat anybody else this week if I played him, but I played JP, and that's just how fantasy goes.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. I mean, I happened to meet week 1 against Cole Gibson, and it just happens to everybody. And you can't do anything when Emmanuel Sanders has 2 touchdowns, and it's just Jarvis Landry, 13 catches out of 16 targets. It was just, I wouldn't say it's a lucky week because JP, don't get me wrong, his team does have talent, and it's hard for me to say that because of all the times I've been a big, I guess,
Well,
I was a big
he's definitely the most
criticizer of
hateable.
JP's
He's definitely the
team.
most hateable player in this league, I would say.
Yeah, and I mean, his record just speaks for
Talks
himself.
the
It's
most
just
trash.
not very good. Yeah, and I mean, if you look at the bench here, nothing much. I mean, you got Kenny Britt, who, I mean, not really starting anymore.
He
You've
doesn't
got
look good.
Amir Abdullah was stifled the whole game until that last run that he had. And it was just garbage time, so I wouldn't put too much stock into it. I just don't really see that much depth in his bench, and as the season progresses, I know he's 2-0, but you just got to really point to whether or not his in-season management is going to be prime or if he's just going to shut down like he has the past 4 years.
I'm gonna tease something for what we're gonna talk about later when we talk about our predictions for week 3. But I got a prediction, or I got something to say about JP's bench and what he might want to do to improve his ball club, but we'll leave that for the projections. But once again, JP beats me by 3 points, obviously a field goal away from Prater, who I'm not going to go into it, but he had a shot and Caldwell didn't put him out. But it's a good win for JP. JP obviously moves into 2-0, one of only 2 undefeated teams left with Ryan Maskin, obviously, and I moved to 1-1, and we're both in the AFC, so it's still a long way to go. And we'll go to the next game. We'll go trophies or nothing against Mike Shady, which is Cole Gibson, and the same score as Braden and Roderick's game, 105-103. Ryan Muskin squeaks out a victory again, and these teams had a lot of low-scoring players, but still managed to get over the 100-point threshold.
Yeah. Ryan Muskin's team, disappointing, I thought. I know he squeaked out a win against a great player in Cole Gibson and great coach. Michael Crabtree, 3 touchdowns. Just the fact that Muskin overcame that was a great testament to his head ball coach skills. And just did you see the touchdown that Travis Kelce had jumping
I did.
over?
It was nasty.
That was,
I mean, that was like a Michael Jordan jump.
Yeah, that was just very impressive. It's just honestly like that just shows you who Ryan Muskin drafts. I mean,
that shows
he just drafts players.
Kelsey's will to win. I mean, I
Yeah,
haven't seen a
that's what I was
player
just about
do
to
that,
say.
lay his body out on the line, jump from the 10-yard line to go in the end zone. I've never seen that. And the Chiefs' offense is just rolling, and I think Kelsey is just going to put up huge numbers, obviously 24 this week. And I mean, that was against Philadelphia, who has a pretty good defense, and they're going at Los Angeles Chargers, whose defense is very questionable. So he could put up another big day.
And another question is not any knock on Travis Kelce or anything, but you gotta understand that Alex Smith is gonna come back to earth eventually. Like, there's just no way he can sustain this level of play. He's never been. I wouldn't say he hasn't been a good passer because he's a very good completion percentage in his career, but he's very short to intermediate route guy. not known for throwing downfield, and eventually I feel like teams are just gonna get to him, and I just feel like Kelsey's numbers aren't gonna completely decline because I have him as a top 3 tight end in the NFL. I see that Kelsey's numbers will
But
definitely take a little drop.
but as long as Kareem Hunt is being the workhorse that he is, and Tyreek Hill is the threatening, like jet sweep type player he is, that run game, the defense is always going to focus towards that run, and there's always going to be openings for Alex Smith to go long. And I mean, as long as that backfield just keeps producing, I think Alex Smith's going to have a great year with a lot of chances to go downfield.
I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong. The Chiefs are definitely a Super Bowl contender. I've just seen Alex Smith play the past 3 years, and he hasn't been the greatest passer in the world from a long distance, long ball kind of quarterback, and I'm afraid to see what will happen once he plays an actual defense like the Seahawks, like the Broncos, when it comes down to it in prime time. And I see down the road Travis Kelce's numbers declining a bit, not too much to the extent that he's not relevant, but some like a mid T1 per se.
Yeah, I agree. And then once again, to go back to Cole's team, Michael Crabtree, I mean, who would have saw that coming? Obviously, 32 points. That's pretty fucking good, especially with 3 touchdowns. And then his quarterback, Cam Newton, got stifled against that Buffalo D without even a touchdown in that game. I mean, his running backs look solid. Melvin Gordon put up 20. His wide receivers look good. I mean, then going down the list is kind of questionable. Obviously, that Jaguars D, I don't know what he thought getting with that. But obviously, week 1, they got 29 points, which I think is a little bit of a fluke. I mean, obviously, Houston's offense with Tom Savage wasn't that great, but I mean, the teams that they got against, or going against, don't really have that great of quarterbacks. I mean, they play Baltimore. Obviously, that's going to be tough. The Jets, the Rams, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, the Chargers again. So it's like, I don't know. I don't know if I should keep him or let him go. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean the Jags defense isn't anything special, I would say. I mean, they're not as bad as they were this week and giving up 37 points, getting -1 fantasy points, but they're not 29 every week. Like, it's hard to play great defense when your offense is so lackluster and when your offense throws it to the other team and they score. You can't really help that, but I really like Dante Fowler just on that defense. He really put some new life into their defense, and I think that they'll be a relevant defense. I don't know if they're a starting defense every week, but they're definitely relevant. But going back to Cam Newton getting stifled against Buffalo, I had him written as a quarterback that wasn't going to be what he was. I know a lot of ESPN experts and other fantasy experts said that Cam Newton could be a bust this year, and I'm not really going against that or for that. I'm just saying that I just don't think that Cam Newton is a strength for Mike Shady's team. I feel that he's got a strength at running back, wide receivers. Like, he's got a really good team. Tight end might need some adjustments, but I really feel like Cam Newton's going to be the downfall of this team when it comes to playoff time. What do you think?
I mean, his next 3 weeks are going to be crucial. He's facing 3 very different defenses in his next 3 weeks, with New Orleans obviously terrible, New England's pretty good, and then Detroit's mediocre. But if he does not perform against New Orleans, I would think about maybe replacing him. There's definitely options out there. He's got a bench to make some trades. He's got players to make trades. Going back to the benches of these teams, these benches are really good, both putting up at least 50 points. If you just want to add something quick about the benches, then we'll move right into the next game.
I mean, I really like Rob Kelly on this bench. It's hard to justify his stats this week just because he was injured. So I wouldn't say early in the game, but 12 carries for 78 yards, had room for about 15 to 20 carries. Definitely, if he comes back next week or even down the road, it could be a huge asset for trophies or nothing. But I really like Jamison Crowder as a PPR play. I know he hasn't done much this year, but last year he was just a reception machine, and I had him pinned for a wide receiver, a high-end wide receiver 3, low-end 2. So I really saw big things from Crowder, and other than that, I mean, Marvin Jones, I guess, he just doesn't get enough receptions for me in a PPR for me to warrant anything. He's a very touchdown-dependent player. Buck Allen, definitely a play where you have to think about down the road, especially with Terrence West on your
I
team.
can't believe Musk did not start him, to be honest.
It's, it was a tough decision, honestly. Like, I didn't see it as much as other people did. I knew that Terrence West was gonna more likely split the workload, but I just didn't know that Buck Allen was just gonna get so many carries. I mean, 14 carries is pretty good for a guy that, I saw as the backup running back, but apparently, if I'm not mistaken, is he the starting running back now? Like, have you heard any
I mean,
information about that?
I think so. I mean, I think this past game kind of let John Harbaugh kind of see what he had, and I think Javorius played better than Terrence. He caught more balls, he ran more balls. I think they're using him in screen passes way more. And I mean, how many yards did he have? About what?
He had 14
66?
carries for 66 yards.
Yeah. So I mean, Terrence West also did not play bad either. But I mean, he does have kind of an injury, so I don't know what John wants to do. Obviously, next week they are playing at Jacksonville, who has a pretty good rush defense, so it'll be a true test.
Yeah, obviously Javorius Allen is definitely the better pass catching running back of the two, and that's a skill set that's needed in the NFL, especially with the way defenses are scheming
And
nowadays.
PPR leagues.
Yeah, definitely, and going forward, Buck Allen is definitely going to be a guy that trophies or nothing should look at harder when evaluating his lineup.
All right, so once again, that was Ryan beating Cole Gibson 105 to 103 in the last game of Week 2. Is our co-host, you play to win the game, Taylor Quista, going against a very bad Nathan Hensel team, mediocre. I don't know what the prettiest word you want to use is, but not a good team.
I'm not going to say anything bad about my colleague, Team Hensel. I mean, obviously he's got arguably the best quarterback in the league in Tom Brady, who's going to carry this ball club. I knew going into this week that it was going to be an interesting battle because you definitely have players that have high upside, like Amari Cooper, Kelvin Benjamin. Obviously, before Greg Olsen broke his foot, you had Greg Olsen, and it sucks that Olsen again broke his foot just because this team was, I wouldn't say damaged, but it was already a questionable team with the amount of a floor, like a stable floor for fantasy scoring. And now with Olsen out, it's just going to be tough going forward. You might have to go to Jesse James, who's on his bench, or even go to the waiver wire and pick up somebody like an Evan Ingram or something who played well today.
Yeah, definitely your guys' benches both scored 65, which, I mean, that's pretty close to even what your starters scored. So, yeah, you guys definitely, your teams are pretty good. It's hard to judge so far. Obviously, Nathan's is struggling mightily. I mean, he's sitting at 0-2 now in that NFC. You're obviously at 1-1. So, I mean, obviously it's anybody's game. But Greg Olsen with that injuries, that's going to be hard for Nathan, especially with all those Carolina players he has on his roster. He doesn't even have that much trade bait, really. I mean, Tom Brady maybe, Amari Cooper maybe, but really I don't even know anybody else on his team that people would want.
Quarterbacks are definitely the easiest commodity to readjust when coming to fantasy football. And getting rid of Tom Brady, I wouldn't say getting rid of him because you definitely should get something out of him. But skill positions are definitely a commodity that you need when coming to fantasy football, and there definitely needs to be a trade that Nathan Hensel makes.
I just don't think you can survive the year with Christian McCaffrey and Tevin Coleman as your running backs. I mean, unless, God forbid, Freeman got injured or, Jonathan Stewart got injured, but those backups I don't think you can survive with those.
Yeah, obviously Christian McCaffrey's got a little bit of skill, but it's not even the fact that he has skill or not. It's the fact that he's just not going to get enough carries in that offense, and I wouldn't even say carries. I'd say more like touches because he's definitely the pass-catching back. And, I mean, not a bad week receiving for him. 4 catches for 34 yards. And then last week, 5 catches for 38. But I see McCaffrey as definitely a handcuff that's valuable. And I'm not saying that Hensel should, hope for an injury to Jonathan Stewart. But if it happens, then Nathan Hensel should be saying his thanks and praying to the fantasy football gods for that, because he'll probably emerge as a RB1.
So I just want to compare benches real quick. I think Nathan's bench, I think he's got 4 players on there that are even useful. Duke Johnson, Chris Thompson, Jesse James, and Gio Bernard. I think those are 4 players that could actually have some upside. Whereas I think the other 3, Moncrief, Deshaun Watson, and Tavon Austin, I don't see those guys ever really producing. I mean, I would probably get rid of them and pick up, you said, like Evan Ingram, maybe even Alvin Kamara or somebody like that. But, I mean, unless, I don't know. Whereas I see your bench and I see all of those players performing, putting up points no matter what week you start them at. And it just seems like so much better of a thing to have, like so much better of an asset.
Yeah, when doing or evaluating my team, I really like to have a strong bench. I mean, this year I take a little bit of exception to that because, I mean, I don't really know what I'm going to do with Thomas Rawls or Cooper Kupp or even Kenny Galladay, because I don't know what they're going to do this year. I had a pretty good grasp of the upside that they had, but, I mean, Thomas Rawls I just don't see as a starting running back anymore. Like, I thought when he came back he was going to beat out Chris Carson and CJ Proise, I believe that's how you say it. Procise. So, I mean, I probably will end up dropping Rawls. I definitely need a running back.
I think you picked up Rawls. I think, didn't I drop Rawls and you picked him up off waivers from me? I believe.
Yeah, that was when Rawls came back. I just thought that he would be the starting running back again, and he just didn't really show anything. And I think that Pete Carroll just really likes the Carson back, and
yeah.
I don't really see Rawls being relevant pending a Carson injury.
I mean, Pete only gave him 5 touches for 4 yards, so.
Yeah, and he's just not making the most of his opportunities.
Exactly.
But I think honestly, steal of the waiver wire, Adam Thielen. I really think that even without Sam Bradford this week, and Adam Thielen posting a 5 reception for 44 yards is not too bad. He would have had 9 points, but of course fumbled on one of the last plays of the game. But that first week just really impressed me, and I just saw the upside that Thielen had in that Vikings offense.
Yeah, hopefully Bradford comes back. I think everybody who owns Minnesota players, including Ryan Muskin, who owns Stephon, really want him to be back to put some juice in that offense, because obviously you're not going to get that with Case Keenum. So, but once again, Taylor wins 97-82. Nathan moves to 0-2. Along, I think Chris Steele's the other 0-2 team. I don't think there's any other ones, but they're definitely going to have to bounce back with both of you being in the NFC. Is there any last thing you want to add about week 1? You can go to any teams you want.
You know what? It was just an interesting week, I thought. I mean, a lot of games came down to the wire. I mean, you had Braden and Roderick. That was a 2-point game. Chris Steele, Austin Rich, 3-point game. And then, interestingly enough, Ryan Mask and Cole Gibson had the same score as Braden and Roderick. So I don't think I've ever seen that before. It was just, honestly, just a close and nail-biting week. And I just can't wait for week 3.
On my way to the top, to reach the summit. Then I'll look down, I hope not to plummet. I start with perfection.
Alright, we're back. So we just completed the week 2 recap of the Gridiron Fantasy Football League for 2017. We're going to move on to week 3 with our projections and our game matchup analyses. And we'll do, what do you want, Roderick versus Chris Deal first, Taylor?
Yeah, we can do that. I see this game as probably the worst one, arguably, in the league this week. So we'll go ahead and start with that one. Save the best for last.
So obviously Chris Deal 0-2, Roderick 1-1, and so look at the quarterback matchup first. Tyrod Taylor versus Big Ben. You got to imagine Big Ben's going to get the higher amount of points going against that Chicago defense.
Yeah, I really like this matchup for Big Ben this week. The only thing that I would have a problem with is I don't know whether or not the game flow is going to suggest that Ben's going to run the ball more. I mean, unbiased here because I have Le'Veon Bell. I just really see that they'll get up big this week, and I just don't like the game flow for Big Ben, and I mean, you're definitely gonna need production out of your first round pick if you're gonna win this week for Chris Steele.
Yeah. Now going on to the running back position, this is a tough one because I think cumulative points, I think Roderick has the better backs, but I mean Kareem Hunt for team deal, can he sustain the success that he's had?
I really like Kareem Hunt. Right now I have him rated as my number 3 running back, and I like the workload that he's gonna get. It's gonna be a great game against the Chargers. I really just like the scheme that the Chiefs run, and I just don't really see Gillislee and James White doing what they did last week. It's not to say that it can't happen, but I just don't really feel that it will. Maybe James White catches like 4 or 5 balls for maybe 40 yards and a touchdown. Maybe Gillislee punches it in at the 2, but I just think it's very unlikely, especially against that Houston defense. Um, if we're looking at both backs, I would probably lean slightly to the Kareem Hunt Bilal Powell,
Okay. I mean, do you think he's going
and
to
that's
keep
just
Bilal Powell?
basically it's Kareem. Uh,
I mean, he's got to make a change,
that's
but
tough to
will
tell.
he? You don't know.
You gotta make a change. I would definitely slot Carlos Hyde into that RB2 slot. I don't know if he's gonna make the decision or not, but as it stands now, I'll still give a slight edge to basically just Kareem Hunt versus Gillislee and White.
Okay.
If he adds Carlos Hyde over Bilal Powell, definitely would take Chris Steele's running backs.
Okay. We're going to move down to the wide receivers. Roderick is starting so far. He's got T.Y. Hilton and Brandon Cooks in. That could change with J.J. Nelson having the big week that he had last week. And then, I mean, team deals wide receivers, Martavis Bryant, Allen Hurns, and he's got Brandon Coleman on his bench as well as Cole Beasley. But I think who he's got right now should be who he starts, right?
Yeah, definitely like Allen Hurns this week. I mean, just the amount of workload that he's going to get, like I said previously in the show. I just, I really just like the game flow that this game's going to entail. I mean, Baltimore, I feel like is going to be up, and I just honestly think that even though Blake Bortles is bad, you're still going to get a bunch of attempts up in the air for Hurns to hopefully come down with. I like Bryant's upside against Chicago. It's just whether or not, again, the game flow is going to suggest in his favor that Bryant will do well. I would definitely look to maybe instead of Mike Wallace against the Jacksonville Jaguars to start maybe Beasley. I wouldn't say Coleman, but I would look at it.
Can I
Maybe
add?
go to the waiver wire.
Can I add real quick? That Jacksonville-Baltimore game is in London, which is a 9:30 Eastern Time kickoff. So, and those games are usually pretty low scoring, but Jacksonville has been there before many times, and it's kind of London's home team now. So I don't know. That could be super sketch starting two of them like that.
Yeah, you definitely don't want your players coming off a plane. That's just, what is it, about 4 or 5 hours,
Hmm.
maybe more. Um, yeah, especially playing in an earlier time slot, they're not going to be used. They're probably going to have, fatigue, and it's going to be tough. But right now, I would give the slight edge, and this is slight. I'd give it to Big Johnson just because of upside.
Really? Okay.
Just because you could see maybe like a Brandon Cooks breakout game, like channels us into Randy Moss or something with Tom Brady. You could see Macklin maybe catch a touchdown, but it's gonna be hard again in that London game. I
I mean,
I don't
that
know.
that Cleveland Indianapolis game might be the worst game of the whole calendar, honestly. And those
Yeah,
teams,
we're
that
talking 3-0.
I mean, in all seriousness, this game could be the only win that team could get. Both teams look very bad. Cleveland, I don't even know who Vegas would even have as the favorite on that. Honestly, it's in Indianapolis, so maybe just by that they might be like 1 or 2 point favorites. But yeah, that game I don't even know what to think about. Probably a lot of picks in that game. Moving down to tight ends, Roderick's playing Jack Doyle, who I don't see as a long-term tight end, but he did get 15 points last week. And then obviously Chris has Jimmy Graham, who, I mean, what's going on with Jimmy Graham? Is he even part of the offense this year?
That Seattle offense has been struggling this year. I mean, if you just look at the fantasy numbers for Russell Wilson in general, he's just not a guy that starts off very strong, and it's you can definitely see it in not only Jimmy Graham but the wide receivers, even like Doug Baldwin, Paul Richardson, just people like that. And I just, as the season goes, I expect their numbers to go up slightly. I ended up ranking Jimmy Graham, I believe, as my fifth best tight end going into the season. So I definitely expect some positive shift towards his fantasy numbers. But yeah, going to your Jack Doyle point, I don't see it. I mean, it's a good matchup against Cleveland. It's just you got the quarterback issue. You don't really know if you're going to get that, you know, 8 to 12 points that you expect from a tight end. Um, I would lean towards that he's around maybe 4 to 5 this week, maybe with an upside of 10 to 12, but I just don't really see Jack Doyle doing much. And it's just, again, Big Johnson's just getting bit by the injury bug, man. I mean, you got Tyler Eifert on the shelf now. You've got John Brown who's out. You've got Andrew Luck, of course. David Johnson,
Andrew
the
Luck.
big name.
Andrew Luck shouldn't be on his bench, I don't think. There's no point in having him on his bench. Now, let me ask you something. Do you think either one of these teams, both of these teams have a tight end on their bench? Do you think either one should make a change? Roderick has Tyler Eifert, and Chris Deal has Austin Hooper.
Should they make a change regarding whether or not that Tyler Eifert will remain on his team? Is that
No,
what
just
you mean?
switch to start. Like, do you think Deal should swap Graham for Hooper this week?
See, that's tough because, in my eyes, Graham I feel like has a better matchup. Definitely a positive game flow, but it's gonna be tough just because Russell Wilson just hasn't been. And I'm not even gonna pin it on him. I'm just gonna pin it on the offensive line, and just the offense is just out of whack, man. Like when you got 1 to 2 seconds to throw the ball, you can't really do anything. Your receivers can't get any separation. And in my eyes, I would definitely consider starting Hooper, but I don't know if I could pull the trigger just because Graham has massive upside in my eyes compared to Hooper.
Okay. And then these defensive matchups, both teams have very good defenses with Cardinals going against Dallas and Patriots going against Houston. Obviously, I would say the Patriots have a way better fantasy matchup just because Deshaun Watson, I don't think he's going to throw for that many yards. He might rush for some yards. Probably, I would guess, a pretty sizable win for the Patriots this week, whereas the Cardinals, Dallas is going to look to bounce back after that terrible game they played against Denver. And the Cardinals' defense might, I don't think they're going to get that many stops. They're probably not going to get that many turnovers. Zeke is playing, that's confirmed for next week, so we'll see how that goes. Anything you want to say about the defenses?
Yeah, I'm gonna disagree with you a little bit. I want to state that I think that the Cardinals might end with more points than the Patriots, just solely on the fact that I like the way Simeon's playing. I feel that the Patriots are going to score a lot of points in this game, so it's just going to give Houston's offense more of a chance to, score, kick field goals, like just do whatever. And I really like the way that, you know, it's just it's looking good for. I I gotta say it's looking good for the Cardinals this weekend, just because Dak has just not been
Okay.
what he was last year.
Okay. I get where you're coming from. Do you think either one should make a change, though? Any waiver pickups?
I would definitely look for Chris Deal's team. You definitely gotta look for maybe more tight end depth because I don't think Hooper's gonna get the job done as your backup tight end. Maybe again, like we stated earlier in the show, go for an Ingram or something. I know today was just like his best game, and we're maybe putting a little bit too much stock into that, but you just gotta he's got the ability. I think that if the Giants offense just gets better, he'll get a ton better, and I just think that maybe a tight end pickup there. Um, for Big Johnson, I would say that you probably need to look at running backs. Like no doubt, maybe even make a trade. It's kind of hard to make a trade though, because I don't really see any bait on this team. Like maybe a Brandon Cooks if someone sees his upside. But I mean, in your opinion, what do you think? Like, Do you see any upside for a trade bait possibly?
Maybe J.J. Nelson, sell him while he's high because I don't think that's going to last all year. Obviously, he's at his highest value right now, so you might be able to get an RB2 or some sort of running back. Maybe package him in with James White or something. But yeah, I mean that's probably it because his bench doesn't have any sort of value. I don't know. I mean, it's just tough. I see where you're coming from. Big Johnson doesn't really have any really trade. But I would say J.J. Nelson is his biggest thing just because he's really high value right now. But obviously, we'll go with kickers. Roderick's kickers, Matt Bryant. Team Deal's kickers, Chris Boswell, who I think, we don't really have to go too much into this, but they're both really favorable kickers this week. I think they'll both score probably close to 10 points. But we'll start with projections. So what do you think the score of this game is going to be?
I'm gonna go with Big Johnson. I gotta go with my article that I posted earlier this year. I know Big Johnson's team's struggling, but I mean Chris Deal is obviously the worst team in the league, and I made the bold prediction that he was gonna go 0-13, and I'm gonna stick to that. I say Big Johnson barely squeaks one out in a very low scoring a week. I'm gonna say final score 81 to 69.
Wow, 69. That is low.
Yeah.
This one is tough for me because I think Deal has a chance. It's hard to judge his team because I think he's obviously Bilal Powell probably going to have to come out. And he might put in Austin Hooper. I don't know. We'll see what he does. But it's hard to judge right now. But I think Roderick's team the whole year is going to be judged by how well New England does. Because look at week 1, New England got hammered and he lost. You look at week 2, they won sizable, he won. And I think this week New England's going to win sizable against Houston, and I think Big Johnson's going to win pretty good. I think it might be like a 12-point victory, so I'm going to go 96 to 84.
96, a little bit high in my eyes, but I mean I could definitely see his team performing to that extent.
All right, that's once again that's Roderick, who is 1-1, and Deal, who is 0-2. Which game you want to go to next?
I'll probably go for trophies or nothing. Taking on, I believe, if I'm looking this right, Antonio Brown Eyes.
Antonio Brown Eyes, okay, who is hold on, let me go to his game real quick. Okay, that's Jake Mitchell. These teams, Ryan is one of only 2 undefeated so far, 2-0, and Jake is 1-1. And we'll look at the quarterback situation thus far. Obviously, Musk, who took Aaron Rodgers in the first round of this year's draft, very confident in that pick, must I add. He has to be the favorable matchup against Jameis Winston.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And if we're looking at these two teams right now, you gotta see that the talent from a talent standpoint, trophies or nothing is just definitely has the better team. We actually have head ball coach of trophies or nothing, Ryan Maskin, on the line.
Yes.
Ryan, how you doing today?
Hey, what's going on, boys? How we doing?
Not bad, Ryan. Your team is obviously looking very hot so far at 2-0. Couple nice wins. Obviously, it might be I would say your toughest matchup so far against Jake Mitchell. How have you seen the year thus far? Look at weeks 1, 2. What have you seen so far?
I mean, honestly, the ball club's just nothing close to their highest potential right now. But we're squeaking games out. You know, Rodgers isn't playing too good yet, but we're getting wins here.
So if you're looking at your team right now, you've got definitely some question marks surrounding DeMarco Murray. What do you see with his role? Do you think it was just an injury problem? And also, for your other running back slot, you have the Terrence West and Buck Allen situation. How are you going to address those 2 issues at running back?
You know, when I look at DeMarco Murray, he's clearly had injury problems in his past, not recently, but in his past. You got him going up against a stout Seahawks defense this week. And I just think 1 or 2 more bad weeks, and there's some serious questions about his starting job when you've got a backup like Derrick Henry behind him.
I agree with you, Ryan. DeMarco Murray everyone thought he was going to be a great workhorse running back for Tennessee. Obviously, 10 points in the first 2 weeks is not what anybody who drafted him wants. Can you give us any thoughts as far as who you're leaning towards, Terrence West or Buck Allen?
Well, against Jacksonville, Baltimore's had a real stout defense this year, and the bad teams they played, they've really just gone out and destroyed them. It's going to be a usual London affair, low scoring. I'm looking for Baltimore to win handily and be running the ball a lot. So I'm leaning towards Terrence West, but Buck Allen has really been a really good receiving back, lots of checkdowns. Could easily crank out 3 to 5 receptions this game, so those are just free points. I'm looking at Terrence West as the starter between the two, but I may squeak in Buck Allen as my flex.
Now, going back to what we're talking about right now about Terrence West, it says right now that he's day-to-day with an unspecific soft tissue injury, and I just...
The Baltimore Sun reports.
So, going off of that, does that change your mind at all? Are you still going to stick with West if he ends up reporting to practice? What's going to go on with that pending his injury?
You know, we're gonna stay close watching that, you know. But if West is able to practice about 2 days this week, we're going Terrence West pretty much all the way. And Buck Allen will only find a spot in the starting roster as a flex.
Wow. That's honestly surprising because Buck Allen looks to be the better PPR option, but once again, your team, Musk, you're the head ball coach, Hall of Fame head ball coach, must I add. So, wide receivers, Keenan Allen, Stephon Diggs, a very, very strong wide receiver duo for you, both putting up great numbers. Obviously, you're hoping to get Sam Bradford back. That would be a huge boost, wouldn't it?
You know, with Bradford out, Stephon Diggs goes to maybe a low-end flex option at most. And to be a starter on my ball club, we're just going to need a starting QB throwing the ball to him. So I don't know if he's going to find a spot this week.
Yeah, I really like your wide receiving core, and I mean your opposing side, AJ Green, Larry Fitzgerald for Antonio Brown eyes. Not the strongest start to the season for them, obviously, but are you nervous of the fact that there's definitely some massive upside with both players, and are you really even, I guess, scared for this matchup against Brown eyes? Do you see any upside in his team?
You know, I look at AJ Green and I just think about what superstar receivers have done in the past to that Green Bay secondary, and he could easily put up 25 to 30 points.
Yeah, he could. I just have to look. I mean, his wide receivers, AJ Green, Larry Fitzgerald, I just don't think those are going to be good, especially this week against Green Bay and Dallas, whereas you guys are going against Tampa Bay and Kansas City, who I think are better matchups. I mean, now let's say Sam Bradford is not playing next week. Are you still starting Stephon Diggs?
I just can't start him against a stout Tampa Bay defense.
Okay.
Yeah, and going off what Joe just said about the matchups, when he stated that Kansas City and was a better matchup for Keenan Allen than Green Bay is for AJ Green, I don't think he was talking about the defense, mainly just talking about the game flow of the situation, just saying that AJ Green probably won't get thrown to that much because Green Bay will be blowing out that ball club. So I definitely see that there's no stable floor for AJ Green. Could definitely put up a 5-point performance. So Musk, going to your tight end position now, you obviously have a top tier tight end in Travis Kelce. I actually had him preseason rated as a top 3 tight end in the league. And how do you feel about his performance this year? Do you like him as a player? Do you like to watch him on Sundays?
I mean, he's shown some attitude problems. He's had some flags thrown his way for that this season. But you got Andy Reid as your coach. He's gonna help you deal with that. Try to get you to stop doing that. He's definitely a huge asset for the offense, and he's an athletic freak. I don't know if you saw his touchdown this week, but he jumped about 5 yards.
That touchdown was nice.
So if he's making plays like that, he's a surefire top tier tight end all season.
I mean, Travis Kelsey, I would say thus far probably the best tight end just all around so far for fantasy. I mean, no injuries, putting up huge points, just looking all around great with a great offense with tons of weapons, so he doesn't have to face the coverage all by himself. So you definitely have the tight end advantage here. I mean, Kobe Fleener on Jake Mitchell's team. I mean, he's a mid-tier tight end, obviously coming in new. I mean, he's putting up 16 and 12, so looking pretty like sustainable thus far. Going against Carolina, which New Orleans, I mean, that's a divisional matchup, so I'm guessing it's going to be really, really tight game. But you definitely have a tight end advantage there. I mean, are you going to keep... So you've talked about Buck Allen possibly going flex or somebody else, so what's the deal with Chris Carson?
I mean, I look at Chris Carson. He was by no means the starter going into that 49ers game. But he comes out of there, 20 attempts, 93 yards, and he just looked like the starter throughout the game. And it's hard to keep a running back out of the game when he's getting 20 carries. But then you look at a guy like Buck Allen, who's also a great receiving back, and he's getting on average about 16 or 17 carries a week. It's just going to be a tough decision. It's probably coming down to matchup.
Taylor, you want to add anything?
Yeah, so your Seattle Seahawks defense has a really good matchup against the Tennessee Titans. Obviously, Marcus Mariota hasn't been playing to the standards, which a lot of people thought he was going to play this year. He's got weapons. He's got Decker. He's got Matthews. He's got Walker. He's got all these guys that he can just throw to whenever he wants. He's got Murray and Henry out of the backfield. Are you nervous at all at these weapons that the Tennessee Titans has, or do you feel like that the Seattle Seahawks can put up a 10-plus fantasy point performance?
As of right now, it's looking like I'm going surefire Seattle Seahawks. They're a veteran ball club, and they know they need to play good right now with the way the offense is looking. So that's probably where I'm going, and I'm feeling pretty comfortable with it.
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason for you to make a change with the Chargers going against Kansas City. I don't think they're going to get any points. And then if you want to go down kickers, Dan Bailey with a pretty good matchup against Arizona, and Kairos Santos going against the Chargers. So as far as the entire team, Musk, and your bench, are you looking to make any sort of bench changes?
As of right now, I look at my bench, and there's no one I really feel the need to drop right now. A lot of the guys are running backs and they're backups, and then you've got three receivers whose seasons are kind of up in the air right now. You've got Marvin Jones, who hasn't been targeted much, but he still has a touchdown in both games. And then you've got a guy like Rashard Matthews, came away with 12 touchdowns last season. He's getting decent target numbers. And then Jamison Crowder, who looks like somewhat of a favorite for Kirk Cousins. You've still got Terrell Pryor getting used to the offense, but he'll probably emerge as the clear favorite throughout the season, other than Jordan Reed in the mix. So, I mean, the bench is looking like something we're going to keep the same this week.
Okay. So you want to go right into predictions, Taylor? You got anything else to add?
I just wanted to add that I said earlier in the show that I really do like Jamison Crowder and Rob Kelly. I know Rob Kelly is injured right now, and he didn't get to finish the game that he was in, but those are just two key guys that I really like on Maskin's ball club. And if you just look at Brown Eye's bench, I don't really see anybody relevant in my eyes. Maybe Pro Cisse, but I don't know. For my predictions, I have trophies or nothing winning soundly. I have the final score 112 to 81.
Yeah, I as well I have Ryan Maskin winning this game. You had what, 112? I'm sorry, 112 to what?
81.
80. So a pretty sizable victory, a 40-point victory.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go a little closer, but I think both of these teams are going to reach 100 points. I think it's going to be 117 to 105. And do we give Musk a projection, or are we going to pass?
Well, I just wanted to point out, we'll give him a projection in a second, but I just wanted to point out that as of right now, I mean, obviously Maskin's going to make some changes to his chart, to his depth chart and whatnot, but according to ESPN.com, Ryan Maskin actually a 6.4 point underdog right now.
Interesting.
So, Ryan Maskin, how do you feel about that? What's your prediction, and what do you think is going to happen this weekend?
You know, I've never been one to really believe in projections. Excuse my language, but I could say they're a bit of a crock of shit and they're a little misleading. But it definitely shows that this ball game by no means is a sure thing. It's gonna be a fight just like every other game this season. I'm looking to put up triple digits again. I could see about a 107 to 94 victory here. So somewhat of a close ball game, but still about a 13 point win here.
All right,
Interesting,
well, that
interesting.
concludes this game. It was good having you on the phone, Ryan Maskin. You're free to stay with us if you want. We're just gonna run down the list of other teams in the league.
Yeah, I'm not gonna leave the studio anytime soon, but I'm
Well, you're on
definitely
the phone,
available
so you can't be in the
also
studio.
whenever you guys hit me up to join the old video.
Sounds
I'm
good.
always a big fan of what you guys are doing.
Thank you, thank you. We appreciate that. We appreciate all our sponsors. Give a shout out to Travato Electric for sponsoring this show. Always reliable service, and just call them up. So, Taylor, what next game do you want to go to?
Ah, man, I'm really jonesing to, if not one of the better games of the week. I would say League Dictator versus JP Plays Through Adversity.
This was one of our Game of the Week nominations, but we actually chose a different game for that. But JP's coming in at 2-0, and Braden at 1-1. Both teams are very strong. Obviously, the quarterback situation for both these teams is very promising.
Yeah, I really like Matt Ryan and Derek Carr. Obviously, top tier quarterbacks. I had in my preseason ranking had Derek Carr as a QB7, or sorry, as the seventh best quarterback, and then I had Matt Ryan as the fourth best quarterback for fantasy. And you can just tell these guys haven't missed a beat. They're definitely playing well, and they've got pretty good matchups. I mean, Matt Ryan against Detroit, and then Derek Carr against that Redskins defense on Sunday night at 8:30, and I really like both quarterbacks to do well this week, maybe even both get over 20 points.
Yeah, I teased something back in our week 2 recap that about JP's bench, and this has to do with his Matt Ryan Matthew Stafford situation. And I'm gonna just go out on a limb, and I think JP should trade Matt Ryan and use Matthew Stafford as his like quarterback for the whole year. I'm looking at Matthew Stafford's matchups, and in the playoff weeks, he plays the Ravens, the Buccaneers, Chicago, Cincinnati. And those defenses are mid-tier to low defenses. And I think right now Matt Ryan's value is super high, and I think you can get a lot out of him. That's just what I think. It's bold, I know, but I think JP should pull that. I don't think he needs Matt Ryan and Matthew Stafford on his bench. Matthew Stafford is a quarterback one. I mean, he could trade him and get somebody. So I don't know. You can probably disagree with me on that, but that's just what I think.
Yeah, there's question marks surrounding everybody's team, of course, and JP's team is no exception, even though they're very good. I don't think Emmanuel Sanders is going to be able to continue to do what he's doing this past week. I know Simeon has been really good this year so far.
Taylor? We seem to have lost Taylor. Musk, got anything to add to that?
No, I'm a little concerned with the technical difficulties here, though.
I don't know where he went.
Sorry about that. Technical difficulties here at the studio, and my mic just cut out. And like I was saying, I just wanted to leave off with Emmanuel Sanders. I just don't think can sustain his level of play, and eventually Trevor Siemian's going to come back down to earth. It's just a matter of time of when. You could even make a package deal for Matt Ryan and Emmanuel Sanders, in my eyes, put Landry as your wide receiver 2. So your running backs and receivers would be set, and your tight end would be really good, and you could even upgrade your flex at that point. And I just feel
Okay.
like that'd be a real, you know, a real nice addition for a team JP plays through adversity.
Let me go to the flex on both these teams. Braden has Des Bryant, and JP has Jarvis Landry. Is Jarvis Landry legit? We've only seen him 1 week. He's got Cutler as his quarterback, but he got 13 catches and way more targets. I mean, is he trending down, or is he going to do this the whole year?
Well, even when Ryan Tannehill was Jarvis Landry's quarterback, you could just see the massive amounts of targets that he was getting, and I feel like as long as Jay Cutler is playing as well as he did week 2, Landry definitely could sneak into that wide receiver 1 low end, and even a real high end wide receiver 2, which is great for a team that has Mike Evans already on it and 2 really good running backs. So I feel like Landry's going to be a valuable asset. In my preseason ranking, now this was before Tannehill got injured.
Okay.
With Tannehill, I had him as a wide receiver 2, and I had him as my 17th best receiver. So now with Cutler, I'd probably reevaluate that and probably knock Landry down to maybe the 11th or 12th best receiver, which is a low-end wide receiver 1. I just really like Landry and his just reception and target ability in PPR. It's just going to be a real fantasy asset for JP plays through adversity. And if you even look at this schedule, you've got, the Jets, the Saints, the Titans, the Falcons, the Jets again, and then you have the Ravens in week 8. But that's about 5 straight weeks of just putrid and just easy matchups for Landry to exploit. And then in the playoffs, if JP ends up, making it, you got New England, who has a shady defense, I think. You have Buffalo, who's all right. But then you have that matchup against the Chiefs. So definitely it's Landry, I would say, is a staple point for JP and his lineup, but you're probably going to have to look for maybe a backup wide receiver 2 just for those, KC weeks and eventually that Raven week 8 matchup. So that's just my take on Landry. I really like Landry. I think he's a great receiver. He's definitely going to be an asset for JP plays through adversity.
Yeah, JP. I mean, his team looks really good. I mean, on paper they look really good. Jordan Howard's situation is hard to really understand. I mean, is there any news on him as far as next week?
I was reading up on it a little bit. There was a problem with his, I believe, AC joint in his shoulder,
Okay.
which that can be a big problem because that causes, labrum tears and stuff like that. And when you're getting hit by grown men coming at you at 4.7 40 speed, it's kind of hard to play on that. So I would just probably, I believe, Daps on the Atlas. Joe, you have Cohen on your team. So I believe we talked about him earlier, but yeah, definitely Cohen emerges as a low-end RB1, high RB2. But it's hard for JP to not have that handcuff, because now you gotta look to somebody like Abdullah or Sproles, or even go to the waiver wire. So.
And if I recall, Patrick Finley of the Chicago Sun-Times reported that Howard was seen with a sling on his right arm. So that's not a good sign. So we'll see what JP does. Obviously, he has bench players to put in. He's got good value. He still has Colin Kaepernick on his bench for no reason, so I don't know what that's about. But maybe he just likes him. The defenses: Braden has Rams D going against San Francisco, a very favorable matchup, and then JP has the Ravens D, who has looked really good going against Jacksonville offense. So is there any really worry you see? Should JP put in Broncos?
I don't really think that JP is gonna have an issue this week. I think this is gonna be a great game, and I honestly think that these two teams, it's gonna be a high-scoring week. I mean, what do you think?
I think it will be. I think it'll be super high scoring. Should we go right into predictions?
I think we should maybe talk. We talked about the bench earlier. Yeah, let's just go into predictions. We'll let Ryan Maskin start off with his predictions.
Ryan, you got a prediction for this one?
Uh, if either way, Salopek goes Matt Ryan or Stafford, I'm sure he'll go Matt Ryan. He's gonna ride the train for as long as he can. I see a shootout in that game, so expect big points from him. You got guys like Mike Evans, Jarvis Landry, some PPR fiends on the ball club. I could give if everyone really shows up like they should here, and the Rams defense puts up at least 10 points, I could give a league dictator Braden Callahan here about a 117 to a 105 win here, maybe.
So you're predicting League Dictator winning this week?
Yes, that's correct.
Joe, what do you think?
I'm predicting a really high scoring game, even more than Musk just predicted. I'm gonna go. Oh man, I think JP is gonna win this one and go 3-0. As hard as that is for me to say, and as much as I don't want that to happen, I think it's gonna happen. And I'm gonna go 126 to 124. JP Salopek.
Yeah, there's just a bunch of question marks surrounding Jordy Nelson. Obviously, he's going to play next week, hopefully, and if he does, I don't know to what extent he's going to be able to play, or even if he's going to be used as a decoy. It's just going to be tough. I think there's less question marks surrounding JP's team as long as he gets decent statistics from, his running back that he puts in for Jordan Howard, if Jordan Howard is in fact out for week 3. I would say I'm going to lean towards JP plays through adversity. I'm going to say he ends up getting 113 to League Dictators 102.
Interesting. Okay. So you guys both have Braden winning, I believe? Or no, you had JP, right?
No, I have JP winning.
Okay.
By
so
9.
Me and you have JP. Musk has Braden. Both teams scoring over 100 points. I think that will probably happen.
Can I add something in real quick?
Yep.
As a Jewish man, I just feel extremely disrespected for the move of Braden Callahan making his team picture Adolf Hitler. Maybe that's just me, but I just wanted to let you guys know that.
Well, I don't think you have to be a Jew to realize Adolf Hitler's picture probably isn't a good one, but I appreciate that response, Musk.
And I just want to update the league surrounding this controversy and reported rumors that Mr. Jared Paul Salopek is in fact, under investigation for allegations regarding his team not being drafted by himself and signing a piece of paper that clearly stated a rule that you can't have outside influence of help after Cole Gibson last year hired a professional fantasy football player. We're not going to throw any stereotypical things out or where in fact that he got this intel, but there's rules and you got to follow them. And JP, of course, is going to be this will be his first offense if found guilty. Likely going to be a submission of a 3rd round or 4th round pick.
So once again, we are confirming that JP is under investigation. Now, you can take that as you want. Our listeners know that the commissioner of this league is not a tough commissioner. He lets pretty much everything slip. We had a player not show up to the draft this year. It made an excuse that many people think was a lie. Some people think is the truth. Not really any information coming out of it. And now that we have this, which is just another black mark on this league that makes the league not look good, makes it look corrupt. So we'll see. You can make a judgment for yourself, but JP is under investigation, and we have a lead investigator in that, and we will probably hear from him in the coming weeks as far as what results into that. So we'll go into the next game, Taylor.
I'd really like to look at, I believe that we are doing, I want to say Nathan Hensel versus Cole Gibson next?
I believe so.
Okay.
Obviously, we're saving me and Taylor's for last, and Taylor's is the game of the week, so we'll do his last. But going for Nathan Hensel's coming in at 0-2, and Cole Gibson's coming in at 1-1. both in the NFC. Both these teams, I mean, this is probably going to be a blowout, I would guess, in favor of Cole. Is that what you think as well?
Well, let's not make any assumptions. I mean,
Well, I'm going
I've
to make
seen
that assumption, so.
I've seen ridiculous things happen in fantasy, and it's. I mean, of course, it's gonna be tough for Hensel to come back from that Greg Olson injury when Olson was definitely a key core factor when, like, joining this ball club, and it's gonna be tough for Hensel to even be playoff relevant this year after that injury, barring some miraculous injury or trade that he makes. But yeah, I don't even know if I really want to get into this matchup. It's kind of hard to break down rosters and stuff when you just know it's going to be a blowout. So should we just go right into predictions?
Yeah, I mean, there's not really anything to add to these rosters. I agree with what you said. Obviously, the Greg Olson thing, Nathan's got to make a change. He's got Jesse James on his bench. That's probably what he's going to do. There's not really much tight end depth on the waivers. I mean, yeah, Nathan's team really isn't that bad except for his running back situation. He's got to get that under control, whereas Cole just has up and down a great lineup. I mean, I'm gonna go right into the projection, excuse me, and I'm just gonna go 121 to 92. Cole.
Yeah, I think that's a little high for Nathan Hensel. I like where it's around for Cole Gibson in your projections. I really like the way that Cole's team just has so much depth. I think he's going to end up benching Terrell Pryor Sr. Probably going to... Oh, man, never mind. I just looked at his bench, and I just don't really see anybody. That's going to be a main issue with Cole, I think, in the coming weeks, is just his bench. I mean, you just don't really have anybody that you can plug in. Maybe a Pierre Garçon.
Yeah,
But
man, you're right. I mean, Derrick Henry, possibly.
yeah, I mean, if Murray's out some week or next week, then I guess you can plug him in. But I guess if Murray does play, you're gonna have to keep Terrell Pryor Sr. in. But I don't think that Cole Gibson's team is going to be able to keep up with the amount of scoring he's been having in the past 2 weeks because Melvin Gordon this past week 9 carries for 13 yards and a touchdown, got 20 points still. So I don't see Gordon being able to keep this going. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's definitely an RB1 mid-tier, but I don't see him, just putting up 20 points week after week. Michael Thomas, kind of disappointing. Crabtree, of course, coming off a big game, but how much stock can you put into that, really? My predictions, I'm probably going to go with Cole Gibson winning 109 to 74 for Team Hensel.
So yeah, you have Nathan scoring really low amount of points, 74.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for him to find a tight end that's going to, put up 8 to 10 points. I'm probably going to pin his tight end, whoever he plays, to probably 2 to 4. Then you got McCaffrey and Coleman who might not combine for 15. Tom Brady going against that Houston defense, man. Like, I don't really see much in this lineup.
And then if we still have Musk on the phone, which I think we do, my producer's telling me we do. You want to give me your quick prediction?
Yeah, I'm looking at about a 102 to 61 game here. I just think Cam Newton, LaShawn McCoy are really going to bounce back this week. I know LaShawn McCoy still did decent, but not running the ball. And then when I look at Nathan's team, other than Brady, there's really no one here with a high ceiling with Greg Olson out.
Yeah, I agree. Nathan definitely has to make some changes, or else he's just going to be a bottom feeder for the league. Again, year after year, the same thing happens to Nathan, and nothing really changes. So I don't know what is going on with him.
You know what? Maybe if you end up showing up to drafts, you'll have a better team, and it's tough for someone to win a league where they just don't show the dedication that they need to have.
I think him and Deal are going to be fighting for the bottom of the barrel this year. And it's tough. I think they both have a chance of going 0 for 13. I don't know if they play each other. If one of our statisticians can look that up, that'd be nice. But I guess we'll go right into my game against Austin then, Taylor.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna get a statistician on that because obviously Hensel and Deal don't aren't in the same division, so we're probably gonna look into that real quick. If if you want to go ahead and have Ryan Maskin, start off with your lineup.
I just got breaking news from my insider Felipe Ancarsi, and he just told me that they indeed do not play each other this year.
Wow,
That's
So
gonna be
that is
big.
a possibility.
That'd be
that
a league first. I
that
mean,
is crazy.
we haven't seen a multiple 0-7 team, 0-8 team since 2014-15 when Braden Callahan and Buzz Callahan pulled the unthinkable.
Yes, that was a strange year with a lot of insider dealings that never really got brought to light. But looks. I guess we can go right into the matchup then.
Yeah. So regarding both of your guys' teams, this is gonna be, I wouldn't say an interesting game. Uh, I see it as something that could be on the lookout for an upset, possibly if Team Rich ends up putting in two guys for his running back and wide receiver slot. That's a big if, though. If he does not, this could be an absolute blowout. But if in fact you have Dak Prescott, Frank Gore, Jay Ajayi, Devontae Adams, Randall Cobb, Rob Gronkowski, everybody's healthy 100%. These guys could definitely have the upside to give Daps on the Atlas a run for their money. Do I see it happening? No. But doesn't mean it can't. Ryan Maskin, what do you think?
I don't know what he's doing as far as managing the team. I know he made a trade, and that's about all I've seen. But Team Rich has talent on this ball club.
I agree with that. He does have talent. I'm a little worried if he does put in players. I'm still confident that my team can pull out the victory. I feel like I do have superior talent, but I don't think Rich is really that bad of a team. If he just manages a little bit, he can be a playoff contender in this league.
Yeah, obviously you gotta have the dedication, like I said earlier, but year in and year out, Austin Rich has the worst winning percentage in league history in the regular season and has never made a playoff appearance, let alone a winning season. So it's definitely tough for him, but this could be the year we actually can do something. I don't know if he'll end up pulling it off, but only time will tell. So I'm gonna go ahead and just break down Travado's team.
Go for it.
Obviously, you have Drew Brees going against that Carolina defense. That defense is actually not that bad this year. They held Buffalo in check. Buffalo is obviously not a good offense, but I mean they have Shady McCoy. Tyrod Taylor's a little bit of a playmaker, but other than that, not really that much seen. I got Drew Brees for around, probably a 17-point performance. Montgomery, Cohen are obviously going to put up their RB1, RB2 numbers. Hopkins against the Patriots, I feel like he'll step up in that game. Hill could bust through, but he's a boomer bust guy, not really a PPR type player, but definitely a good low end wide receiver too. Jordan Reed, elite tight end, hasn't shown it yet this year, but I think he's been battling an injury right now. He's actually rated as questionable, so we're gonna have one of our guys on that real quick.
I believe
And
NFL.com's Ian Rappaport reports he's considered day to day with a chest contusion. So
okay, so obviously Travado's gonna have to keep a close eye on that. But and then you have, if not the second best receiver in the league, arguably between him and Antonio Brown, Julio Jones. It's just I like the talent that this team has. Panthers going against the Saints, like definitely good matchups. Like there's, in my eyes, I said earlier that Rich could give him a run for his money if his players play on their head, but I just don't see it. I'm gonna go ahead and lead off the projections
can I just
with.
add? I'm just gonna add something real
Oh,
quick.
yeah, go ahead.
I'm about 95% sure I'm not playing the Panthers D this week. I'm probably going to make a change just because New Orleans. I'm not going to have a matchup with that, so expect a different defense. But that's probably the only change I'm going to make.
Okay, so even without the Panthers defense, you're still gonna have, a lot of your players that probably will hit their upside this week in my eyes. Again, I'm just gonna lead off the projections with Daps on the Atlas, 112, Team Rich. I have to give him two scores here because I don't know what he's gonna do. But if he doesn't put those two players in, I got Team Rich for 52. And if he does put those two players in, I have him for 81.
So,
So
okay, hold on, give me 1 second. So 112 to 52 or 112 to 81,
correct.
and me winning.
And I just, yeah.
Okay.
And you know what? I mean, that may be a little low in some people's eyes, but it's just kind of tough because you don't really know what you're gonna get from one of the. I'm not trying to, put a knock on him or anything, but he's one of the worst rated end season managers in league history, and you can obviously see it in his winning percentage, and and he's got to do something, man. I mean, this game could be close if he actually, and if he knocks off Joe Travato, that's a top tier ball club. I mean, what do you think, Musk?
If Team Rich can really dig deep and pull out a win here, that'd be huge. But I'm looking at maybe a 126 to 87 victory here for Daps on the Atlas. And I just wanted to say, I look at this team and his bench, and there is a lot of talent suspended and injured right now that could make a huge difference deep in the season.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I really like Willie Snead in that offense that the Saints have, especially paired with Drew Brees, who's a starting quarterback. And you know what? Doug Martin could end up getting his job back. I don't really see it just because I really like Jaquiz Rogers. But if Jaquiz Rogers ends up getting hurt or, underperforming, Doug Martin obviously could slip into that running back two, maybe if he hits his peak, a low end running back one. You never really know, but definitely upside in Doug Martin and definitely Willie Snead. So we'll see you later, I guess. So are we ready to move on, or do you want to give your own projection, Joe, into this game?
No, I'm not gonna give a prediction. We've never done that in the past, so I'm not gonna start now. But I think what all you guys said is right. I mean, there's a part of me that hopes Rich actually competes in this game. I don't know if he will. I don't know if we can contact him or what's up, but we'll see what happens. I don't want another blowout. It's just bad for the fans, bad for everybody involved. But
Yeah, and you know what? He made a move last week that definitely benefited his ball club, trading Odell Beckham Jr. away for, a low end wide receiver two and I would say an RB1 in Jay Jai, and it's just he's made some moves. He's just got to keep doing what he's doing and raise his in-season management to make the playoffs.
all right. Now, one final game, the game of the week. Our fans have voted, and they have said the game of the week is Matt Boss Status versus You Play to Win the Game. Both of these teams are 1-1. Matt Brem has put up a crazy amount of points. I don't know if it will happen again, but Taylor is looking to shut him down. We look at the squads. Russell Wilson versus Marcus Mariota, both mobile quarterbacks, both dual threat, and they're playing each other, which is very interesting in this game. So both eyes will be glued on this game. I mean, Musk, you think this will be low scoring? Am I right?
I just can't see this as a low-scoring affair here.
I mean, as far as Seattle versus Tennessee.
I don't even know if you could say that's low-scoring, honestly. Seattle's obviously gonna shut down Tennessee. But I mean, Pete Carroll, he's a real aggressive coach. I could honestly, in a blowout, see him running the score up here.
He might. It's going to be interesting. I mean, both these running back squads on these teams are great. Miller, Gurley, and Bell and Elliott. Obviously, on paper, Bell and Elliott would be the better running backs, but Le'Veon has just been stifled so far. And I mean, Zeke last week got stifled too, with five fantasy points. So, I mean, both of these teams are going to be looking for their wide receivers to perform. Obviously, you got Demaryius Thomas and Chris Hogan, along with the newly acquired Odell Beckham on Taylor's team. And then Matt has Antonio Brown, Alshon Jeffrey, and Golden Tate. Musk, what do you think of these trios of wide receivers, and who do you think performs better?
I look at Antonio Brown. That's my boy Tony Toe Tap. I see him as a fantasy's number one wide receiver probably. He didn't really show it last week. 5 catches, 62 yards. But you look at week one, 29 points in PPR. I'm really looking for him to bounce back. See Big Ben, get him the ball. You've got Alshon Jeffrey. He had a real solid play on that touchdown. I see Carson Wentz. If he has common sense, which I'm sure he does. I could see him easily getting him the ball 6 to 8 times. Possibly a solid 14-point game. I'm going as of right now. I don't know. You mix in Golden Tate, but then you mix in OBJ. Could probably still give the edge to my guy Matt Brim's team.
I think
but
so.
I could honestly rate this as a push.
I think so. Man, Odell Beckham, this situation is crazy. Eli Manning in that Giants offense is looking really bad, and they have not put up many points. They barely even made it to the red zone this year, and that Eagles defense turns the ball over, forces turnovers a lot. I mean, whereas Atlanta's defense is, man, they're probably not that as good, so Golden Tate's going to have a little more, that's going to be a gunslinging battle too, so Golden Tate, I would expect to have a touchdown in that game. Taylor, is there any changes you're going to make as far as your lineup, or is it looking like what it's going to look like?
Well, it's tough to say because I'm in this weird predicament where you don't want to start Marcus Mariota against Seattle. You just don't. He's not playing well. But you look at Carson Wentz, who's my guy, who I was like, okay, you know what, I'm starting him this week. And then I realized that Matt Boss has Alshon Jeffrey and Zach Ertz on his team.
Ah, yes.
So it's going to be tough for me to decide. I might have to go to the waiver wire. I don't know yet. I'll probably end up knowing by Thursday or Friday what I'm going to do.
He also has the Giants defense. I mean, that Giants-Eagles game has so many players on both these teams. That's going to be crazy.
Yeah, it's tough for me to decide. Hopefully Le'Veon and Ezekiel Elliott get their head out of their fucking ass, excuse my language. But I felt like that had to be dropped. It's tough to see a guy you drafted first overall. You look for somebody to score 15 plus a week, just absolutely shit the bed. Zeke, I don't know what happened to him this past week, but it's an encouraging sign that he's gotten, catches out of this backfield. I really cannot pin it on Zeke. You got to look at that offensive line that just did not play well against Denver. Von Miller was just, wreaking havoc on their offensive line, and Dak just wasn't making great decisions, wasn't making passes. It's tough on Elliott when everything falls apart. So hopefully he bounces back on Monday night prime time. He usually plays well then. I'm going to say for Chris Hogan, I'll probably take him out against that Houston defense. And actually, I'm not even going to say probably. I am going to take him out against that Houston defense and put in Adam Thielen.
Interesting, okay.
So I'm going to end up going with the Demaryius Thomas, Adam Thielen, Odell Beckham route. Maybe even a surprise Kendall Wright play, just as a straight PPR guy against that Pittsburgh, team that Chicago's definitely going to be throwing the ball the whole game. So that might be a little. I might look at that a little bit. Probably not going to happen, but maybe a little glance. I don't know what I'm going to do about the Texans going into New England. That's going to be tough. Probably end up going to the waiver wire there. And then, other than that, I don't really see anything else.
Okay, well, we can go right into predictions. I'm going to go fairly high scoring. I'm going to have to go Matt Brem in this game. I just think he has the superior matchups. And, I just think his team is just trending up, where I think your team is trending down with the running back situation. We'll see if they bounce back. Obviously, Bell has a favorable matchup against the Bears, but I'm going to go Matt Brem 119 to 103. Musk, you want to give yours?
Yeah, I look at the running backs here on You Play to Win the Games roster, and call me crazy, but with their matchups, I could easily see about 50 points coming out of these two guys this week. I'm gonna have to go with I don't think that'll be enough to carry the team. I'm gonna have to go with Matt Brim at about 111 to 92.
Okay, Matt Bram. I'm just recording all these so we can look back on our next week's radio show. So those are our predictions. So I mean, this week is going to separate a lot of people. We're going to see if JP and Musk can continue to be undefeated. We're going to see if Deal and Rich are going to continue to suck major ass, along with Nathan. I don't know him. I mean, those teams are clearly bottom feeders, and it just makes getting the playoffs way easier. So I mean, we'll see. It's gonna be interesting. I mean, the NFL season's now getting progressed forward. We're gonna see who the real players are, who the fake players are, and I'm looking forward to it. And we're gonna let you go now. We're gonna wrap up our show, do some final power rankings. But it was enjoyable to have you on.
Yeah, anytime. I'll see you guys.
Have a good one, Musk.
Yep, you too, sir.
I'm the greatest of all time. Of all time. Of all time. I'm the greatest of all time. Cause I'm the best around one day.
All right, we're back. The Tro Quis radio show. We got one last segment. It's gonna be a brand new segment called T Quiz's Power Rankings, and he's just gonna rank the teams in order 1 through whatever 12, I think, right? And it's gonna be best to worst. It's gonna be looking at future projections. Gonna be looking at the team currently, looking at the manager. Give us all the criteria that you're looking at, Taylor.
Yeah, I'm looking at record, what your team's done, just the body of work. I'm looking at in-season management, whether or not I see you, as a coach performing down the road. So every week I'm gonna come out with a new list of the power rankings and where I think each team belongs, and this is gonna change every week. Remember, so if your team isn't as high as you'd like them to be, you still have another 12 weeks to figure it out. So I guess it's time to get into it.
Let's get into it. I guess we'll start at the bottom, right?
All right. So at number 12, I have I'm sorry, the worst team in the league by far. The team that I projected for 0-13, Chris Deal. I know he had a solid week this week, 97 points. I mean, it's not great, but not bad. Definitely an improvement from last week's abysmal 50-point outing. I don't see enough body of work in him, and right now I think he belongs at the bottom of the barrel. He definitely has time to improve, but right now this is where I see him. Do you have any thoughts about that?
No, I'm gonna let you take control of this segment. It's your segment. So Chris Deal, number 12. We'll go on to number 11.
All right. So number 11, I got the Electric Man, Nathan Hensel. Nathan Hensel, of course, having a disappointing 0-2 start. If I looked back on stats from the previous 3 years, he has started out 0-2 in each of those 3 years. Worst win percentage in league history. I don't see the body of work there. Nathan Hensel definitely has time to grow, has time to improve his team. He's very much like, I would say, Chris Deal, in the fact that there's definitely talent on the ball club. It's just whether or not he can pull, I guess, backyard bullshit in a sense. So I have Nathan Hensel ranked 11.
All right.
All right. At number 10, I have the Austin Rich, the man, the myth, the guy that doesn't set his fucking lineup. 1-1. Definitely a better start than what I thought he was going to have. Of course, he played Chris Deal, but he did have a triple-digit performance, outscoring Nathan Hensel. You play to win the game, Taylor Aquista, and of course, the guy he went against in Chris Deal and Jake Mitchell. So definitely a good performance from Austin Rich this week. You look at his body of work last week. Week 1, he only had 64 points against trophies or nothing. Definitely improved, much like Chris Deal. And yeah, so right now I have Team Rich just rated at the low number 10 spot. At number 9, I have the man that always finds a way to not only have his team on the injured reserve but himself as well, Jake Mitchell. Jake Mitchell, I feel that his team I feel like they don't have enough talent to warrant a playoff spot now. I definitely thought that he had a chance at the beginning of the year. I thought that Freeman was going to be a great player this year, not to say that he isn't so far and he doesn't have time to do it. But from what I see right now, just the talent standpoint, Jake Mitchell definitely deserves the 9 spot. Coming in at number 8, I have Roderick Callahan. He is 1-1 with 184 points scored in the past 2 weeks. Definitely not as high as he probably would like, but it's difficult again without your RB1 that you drafted second or third overall, in the draft, in David Johnson. So it's going to be a tough bounce back for Roderick, of course, but I feel like the 8th spot's fair for him. His team is definitely still a contender. He has time to improve. Had a 105-point outing and upset a league dictator who was coming off of a great week last week. I feel like that 8th spot's great for Roderick, and I'll be glad to see if his team can continue to grow and develop into a playoff caliber team. At number 7, I have myself. You play to win the game. 199 points for. Definitely 2 slow weeks to start off the year. Definitely benefited from the 82-point performance from Nathan Hensel in week 2, which gave me the win to improve to 1-1. I would just like to say that I think that my running backs will definitely improve, hopefully. But only time will tell, and I feel like a 7th spot is definitely fair. And as we progress in this show, I just want to say that definitely stay and tune in for the final 4, because I feel like it's going to be different from what everybody has pegged, and we'll see.
Can I just add
so
some?
at number,
I'm just gonna add something real quick.
yeah.
You would have only beaten 2 other teams this week. So the only teams you could have beat were Nathan and Jake Mitchell. So you really lucked out. You would have lost a deal on a tiebreaker. So you got really lucky you played Nathan this week.
Yeah, like I said, just luck of the draw. I mean, I had an unfortunate series of events last week where I played Cole Gibson, who, ended up scoring 127 points, which is good enough for second best in the league. So I'm just glad to see that I have finally some fantasy football luck on my side. But anyway, progressing further into the rankings, at number 6, I have the man I just talked about, the Cole Gibson. 1-1 with 230 points for. Definitely very solid numbers. Critics would probably argue that he should be higher here, maybe ahead of Braden Callahan, and even possibly ahead of Joe Travato. They're definitely still up in the air. But I have Cole Gibson there just because I see that his team could definitely be due for some regression with Melvin Gordon just not getting the yards per carry that I thought he would get and just being very touchdown dependent. Cole Gibson, definitely a solid team, definitely probably has a chance to be a top 2 seed come playoff time, and as of right now, his team has definitely been performing. At number 5, I have the league commissioner himself, Braden Callahan, at 1-1 with 231 points for. Week 1, definitely a great week for Callahan to start the season. Most in the league. Played a great game against Matt Brim, who I thought was going to be one of the best teams in the league, and so far Matt Brim hasn't disappointed. But Callahan definitely had a great week from Jordy Nelson, from his defense, just an all-around effort from his team, and I just really think that he deserved that spot at number 5. At number 4, we have Joe Travado. Uh, Daps on the Atlas is 1-1 with 231 points for, tied for fourth best with Braden Callahan. Joe Travado definitely has a great ball club. I see him definitely as a high-end playoff team if his team, barring injury or anything ridiculous happening to his starters, just a all-around team that's just definitely has a chance for a ring this year.
Bet.
At number 3, now everyone's gonna be down on me here because this team's undefeated and all, but right now it's just I feel that he still has room to grow and he just hasn't shown his full potential yet. I have the undefeated 2-0 Ryan Maskin, 219 points for, definitely the low end for a undefeated team. He is week 1 came off of a 114-64 win against Rich, which 50-point blowout, best in the league so far. That was very impressive on Ryan Maskin's part. Week 2, however, was a little bit of regression that hit his team. He squeaked one out against Cole Gibson in a very tight one after Michael Crabtree pulled out 32 points out of his ass. Kelsey played really well for Ryan Maskin, and I expect him to grow in the future. And this team, honestly, finally Ryan Maskin drafted a ball club. Finally Ryan Maskin has a chance to win a ring. And I just look forward to seeing what happens in the future and what it entails. At number 2, I have the 1-1 Matt Brim with 237 best in the league points for. Matt Brim unfortunately went against the best team week 1 in terms of scoring and Braden Callahan. However, Matt Brim did not fail to disappoint. He had 118 points, which was very good, third best in the league that week. He had great games out of Antonio Brown, who had 29. He was just his team all around, Lamar Miller, Todd Gurley, like all these guys are putting up stats. Tight end so far that has really surprised me in Zach Ertz, 17 points for week 1. Very impressive. And then, of course, he had 14 points against the great defense in the Chiefs at 14. All around, you just look at this team. It's just, as long as something doesn't happen, again, just a team that can definitely compete for a title. And at number 1, I have the undefeated JP Salopek. JP Salopek with 224 points for. He scored 2 high-scoring weeks back-to-back. The real question is whether or not his team could sustain this with his league in-season management right at the near bottom. I see that JP Salopek is definitely number 1 this week, but the main question I ask myself when doing these rankings is whether or not I see him at number 1 throughout the whole season. I definitely see regression for JP Salopek. I probably will stick to my article that I stated that he'll be a low-end playoff team if he gets in, maybe a 5 or 6 seed. But right now, JP Salopek has put in the best body of work. He's shown up both weeks. He's definitely a team contending for a playoff spot this year.
Well, there you have it. Those are T Quiz's power rankings. They will be in each of our radio shows each week, regular installment. We'll see who rises, who falls, who stays the same, who jumps. Could have some jumps, but there it is. That concludes our week 3 radio show for Tro Quis. We appreciate all you guys listening. Thanks for Travado Lecture for sponsoring this, and we'll see you in week 4.